Hi Stampers, it's Madeline from stampingwithmadelyn.com, and today we're going to be making this adorable thank you card that will really wow someone. We're going to be using an embossing folder and embossing powder in order to make this card, but I'm telling you it is super cute and I think everyone would love getting it in the mail. So let's get started on this. Okay, first thing you're going to need a card base. I did this a long way, so this is going to be 11 by 4.25. Next you're going to need a piece of Madelyn-The. It's going to cover the entire front, so that's going to be 4.25 by 5.5. Then you're going to need a piece of rich raspberry. It's going to be 4 1/8 by 3 1/4. Then you're going to need a piece of the specialty DSP that is in the Affectionately Yours Designer Series paper kit. But you could use whatever you want for this, but I loved the sparkle and it really went well with the card, as you can tell in the example. Lastly, you're just going to need a scrap piece of Whisper White that is going to be 2 by 2 that you could do a small circle with. Okay, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is take our card base and fold it in half. So you just want to line up the ends and press it down. Then what we're going to be using, we want this Madelyn-The piece, and we're going to be using the Big Shot embossing folder called Petal Burst. So all these products will be on my website for this video on their blog post, stampingwithmadelyn.com, and you can find this blog post in the description below. There'll be a link. So I love the embossing folders because you can take a regular piece of cardstock and make it into a beautiful art piece. So you're going to take your Madelyn-The and you're going to put it in here. You don't want it all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom because then it won't get the print that you want. So line it up in there. You're going to put it through your Big Shot without the thin die adapter. So you just want this between the two plates on the platform, but take out your thin die adapter. I will be right back with this. Okay, so I am back from the Big Shot machine, and as you can tell, look at that. Look at what that embossing folder did for us. So again, that is the Petal Burst Big Shot embossing folder, and you can make a regular piece of cardstock turn into a masterpiece. So there are two sides. There's like an innie where it's the design pushed in, and there's an outie where the design is pushed out. I like using the outside for this card, but it is totally up to you. So we're going to adhesive this down onto our white card base. You just want to get it so it's covering all the white. It's okay if a little shows out, we can always cut it down later. Okay, next we're going to work with our rich raspberry. So you'll want to put this aside for now. As you can see from the example, I'm going to round the corners. So you can get a corner rounding punch from Project Life on our website that I can show you. It'll be in the links on my website, or you can just use scissors, or you could leave it square. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to round the corners just because I think it gives it a much nicer finish on it. There we go. Now it is nicely rounded. Okay, so the next step is going to be stamping on this and making this beautiful creation that we have on the front. So what we're going to be using is a free stamp set. So this is totally free if you spend $50 on my website, and you'll get to pick a celebration item. So if you're in need of catalogs, please reach out to me. I'd love your business. This is the So Very Much celebration stamp set that we're going to be using. Totally free. So here I'm going to use the huge thank you stamp, and I'm just going to put it on this big block. So this is the red rubber stamps. So you want to make sure that you put enough pressure on it to make it so that it'll stick to the block. You could always put a little bit of adhesive on the back of the stamp to make it stick nicer. Totally up to you. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to stamp this in Elegant Eggplant. This is going to create that shadow look on it that you can see. So I'm just going to pat, pat, pat this all over the stamp. That way I have more control about where the ink is going. And I'm just going to stamp this on in the center of the rich raspberry and just push it down for a few extra seconds. There we go. So that is the first step. So you'll want to wipe off your stamp really well, because next we're going to be using Versamark. Okay, the next thing we're going to be using is Versamark. So this is a sticky ink that lets you use embossing powder. So we're going to be embossing to get that silvery finish on this stamp, on this card. So let me show you the first step to embossing that is so important, is to use an embossing buddy. So this is another thing you can get on my website. This will make such a huge difference, and I promise to you it is worth it. I have done lots of cards without this, and it does not look that good. So what you want to do is you want to take this embossing buddy, and you just want to guide it over the entire card. You don't want to touch it with your fingers anymore, so just hold it down with your nail or a tool and really get everything off of this. This is very important. This will make it so that your powder stays on exactly where you want it. Okay, so now that you have done that, you can put your embossing buddy away. You want to take your stamp back, and you're going to be using this Versamark, the sticky ink. So we're just going to tap, tap, tap on this stamp. Get all the words nicely inked with this. And again, it's a clear stamp, so you have to look at it at an angle and just make sure that everything looks like it's wet with the ink. So you can kind of tilt it and see, okay, it looks like it's all stamped nicely. Now, here's the part. You want to line it up, but it's okay if it's just a little off, because it'll even look better, I think, because then you can actually see the shadow of it. So try to line it up as best you can. Press it down for a few extra seconds. There we go. So you can kind of tilt it back and forth. Make sure not to touch your fingers on it. And you can see that there's something on there. So the next step is putting the embossing powder on. So I use a Tupperware, so I don't lose any of the embossing powder. So this is the silver stamping emboss powder, and you can get this on my website too. I'll have all the links up on my blog post. You're just going to sprinkle this on, and it's okay to use extra, because we're just going to pour it right back into our jar later on, so don't worry about it. You want to use enough, so don't be frugal about what you're using on this, just because if you use too little, you won't get the effect that you want. And again, all of that is going to go back into our embossed powder jar. So I'm just tapping this down on the bottom to get all the excess off. I'm going to flip it over and flick it. This is just giving us that clean finish that we want. There we go. Look at that. So now it's a very dark powder. Now we're going to use the heat gun. This gets very hot. I got this on Amazon. You can get it either on my website or Amazon, totally up to you, or other stores have it. You're going to just hold this down and start heating. So you're going to see the magical change of this. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. All right, here we go. I just want to show you what you're looking for when you do this. So see how the top is all embossed, but this isn't, and even around here, it's still a little dark. Oh, let me unzoom. It's still a little dark. So that's what you are looking for. You want it to be this full silver finish. All right, and there we go. You want to make sure that when you're done with it, you don't want to touch the silver because it is still wet. But see, look at that. You can see the shadow behind it a little bit. I just love this technique, and I think it really brings an additional 3D dimension to it by putting that shadow in the background. Okay, so we're going to go back to our card base that has the embossed folder on it with the petal burst. And now you're going to use your extra strip of designer series paper that we included. You're going to need to cut this. So what you want to do is you want to put this down on here, and you want to cut a little bit of it so that you can still have a strip for down here. So all I do, I didn't measure it, I just have a little bit sticking up on either on top and bottom. And then I'm just going to cut off the excess as straight as you can. So there we go. So we're going to glue, adhesive down your strip of designer series paper, and just make it so it's coming down a little bit from the bottom and a little bit from the side, just like that. And then you're going to put this right over it. So by now it's dry, so it's okay to turn it over and put adhesive on it. Make it so that there's a little bit of Melon Mambo sticking out on either side. and that a little bit of the designer series paper is sticking out on either side. And there you go. We're almost there. Then with your extra piece of designer series paper you have, we're going to put it down here, and we're going to make it so that it's very, very close to the bottom. You just want like a tiny bit of pink hanging out from the bottom. Okay, and now we're going to make our circle. So you're going to take that scrap of Whisper White that we have. That's about 2 by 2. I did mine a little bit bigger. It's about 2.5 by 2. And you're going to get the smallest circle from the Layering Circles framelits. Okay, we're going to get the smallest circle from the stitched framelits shapes, because I like having that finished look of the stitched framelits, and this one has a great small circle that we can use. So what we're going to do is first you're going to use the stamp from So Very Much. We're going to use the So Very Much stamp. And I learned a trick from one of my students that came to my class. I'm going to stamp first and then cut it out. So we're going to use the Elegant Eggplant again. And you're just going to ink this up and kind of just stamp all over this paper. So you want to re-ink every time. I am going to do some overlapping. You will be stamping off, so just make sure you have a scrapper if you have a wipe to wipe off everything. And then decide where you like it the best, and you're going to use your stitched framelit to cut that out. So I like over here, and just go through your big shot. We'll be right back. Okay, and here we are. So there's the stitch. It's kind of hard to see. Another tip, just so you know, when you go back to your big shot after the embossing folder, you want to make sure that you put your thin adapter back in. Okay, so now we're just going to adhesive this down, and our card will be all set. Right in the middle there. There we are. There is our finished card. So I hope you liked this card. All the details and products that I use will be on my website, stampingwithmadelyn.com. And again, this is a card that you can make lots of very fast if you have like a lineup going. Please subscribe to my video, like my video if you liked this card, leave the comments below. And for now, keep stamping, stampers. Bye.